Hi everyone and welcome to the Colour Cave where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem and today I'm going to address something that I see in the colouring community quite a lot, and that is the trepidation towards colouring in grayscale. I am here today to show you really simple ways to tackle some grayscale drawings, and I'm starting with something quite simple, so for those of you that feel intimidated by grayscale, it seems not that bad. So I'm just going to gather everything together and we can get going. The picture that I have chosen today to show you some grayscale colouring is this image here, and it is from Colour My Sketchbook 5 by Bennett Klein. I have picked that specific colouring book and this image for a reason. Bennett Klein himself describes his artwork as hybrid grayscale, and that's exactly what this is. You can see that there are sections of the drawing that have no shading in them whatsoever, and then we have sections like our cute little friend here and this flower that do. I thought this would be a good place to start for people that are quite intimidated by grayscale, and in this particular book of Bennett Klein's there are several images that are similar to this that are quite simple, but there is still that grayscale element to them. So there are two schools of thought when it comes to colouring grayscale, and I'm going to go through both of them with you, and that will, it gives you options if you are new to colouring and you're maybe not too confident, but it also gives you something to step up to as well. We're just going to ignore this pattern around the outside for the purposes of this. We're going to focus on the grayscale part in the middle. Okay, so it's quite common for people to feel intimidated by grayscale images when the reality is that it should be the opposite. You can take an image like this and colour it with flat colours, and I promise you it will still look awesome. The reason for that is somebody's done the shading for you. So if you take a pencil, and as this is a polychromos, light magenta, and you start colouring. So I'm just going to colour this little leaf in. I am literally using flat colour here, and I'm just going to build up some layers because that's what we do with our pencils. But you can see there, as I'm going over it with these layers, it is automatically creating highlights and shadow, and that is because the grey scale shadow lines and hatching are already there, they're already in there. So even just by laying down this little bit of colour, and it'll be much more apparent on this one here because there is a large white section and quite a large shaded section as well. So I'm just taking my time here and colouring this in. So what this lets you do is it lets you get a nice impactful picture without doing any work at all. And I love grayscale images to colour. See if I want something quick to colour. You know, I'm looking for a quick fix, or maybe I don't have a lot of time in my hands, you know, to sit for 2 or 3 hours and work on a particular image. Grayscale images are fabulous for this. And you can, I wanted to say you can get away, you know, it's not about getting away with anything. You can colour a picture using very, very few pencils as well and still get a really nice result. So you can see down the bottom here, it's starting to, like, the colour is starting to build up over that dark area, and all it's doing is enhancing it. And I'm only using one pencil, literally one pencil, to colour in this entire flower. So really there's no reason to be frightened or intimidated by grayscale pictures. This line that's starting to appear here, this is from my printer. The printer heads are needing cleaned. I haven't put that in, so just letting you know. So even if you are absolutely brand new to colouring and you don't have much experience, there is absolutely nothing stopping you colouring in grayscale images, because you can lay down flat colour like this. And it's actually quite a good exercise in layering your pencils and learning to use a light hand, because if you want these to be more vibrant, obviously this looks very, very delicate, but if I start building up some layers on top of this now. This is me going into my second layer. This is really good if you're heavy-handed. And it's, you know, you can do a little bit of an exercise while you're going. But you can see there the colour's starting to build up nicely. And in the darker areas, it just makes them look darker. That's all it does. You're not ruining anything. You know, there's nothing to mess up, because those guidelines, those Greyscale guidelines are there for you already without any hassle at all. So simple, so straightforward. And I could have just told you that, you know, rather than making a video on this, I could have just said just flat colour. But people don't believe me. They're like, oh, you can't just, you know, use one pencil and colour a section. What's the point? Well, of course you can. Nobody's saying that you can't. It's only you telling yourself that you can't. So they go right in here. So you can see this part where these little claws are, that's starting to look really dark in there. And again, that's just the shading from the image. That is all. That is absolutely all. So the other reason that I wanted to colour this in the video is so that I can show you in real time how quickly you can colour an image, and also to compare side by side the second Greyscale colouring technique, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. So there we go. So let's have a look at our little friend up here. I think he's just absolutely adorable. I really do. He's so cute. Okay, so I'm going to make him a blonde. I'll zoom in a little bit now so that you can see. This pencil's very pale. It's difficult to see on the paper from a distance. There we go. So the white areas in this I'm going to take to be a different colour from the darker areas, just to give us a little bit of variation on our furry friend. Here he is, absolutely the sweetest thing. Very, very cute. Okay, so just taking this all the way down, like he's got a little mustachio. Stop that about there. I had the feeling when I first looked at him that he was going to be a ginger. I think he is a ginger. So I'm just going to take this up. And again, there's a lot of shading and a lot of actual Greyscale there. So that is going to affect our pencil in that it's going to make some of it look a lot darker than others, which is what we want. Oh, here's one of my printer lines coming up again. Can you see that down there? Should really do a bit of housekeeping on the old printer. Again, this area under his nose is a classic place where you can see the difference between the darker areas and the lighter areas, and it does look as if you've shaded it with your own pencils. So that is exactly what we're trying to achieve. Therefore, job's a good one. Okay, so I'm just going to go back over, give this another layer. I'm going to speed this up as well so that you don't have to sit about and yawn. Alright guys, there you go. 12 minutes. And you cannot tell me that he doesn't look adorable, and he looks pretty good coloured in, and that is just flat colouring. Now, if that is too boring for you, or you think it's below you, or you have more time to spend on your drawing, then you can introduce 2-3 pencils and basically just colour the way you would normally colour. But again, you have the added advantage that because the artist has put the shading in the picture already, you have a guideline of where to put your darker shades. So once again, Greyscale is actually easier to colour than a normal black and white line art picture. So we're going to focus on this side, and we'll start. I think we're going to have to give this guy a name as well, because he's just, oh, I just want to eat him all up. To start with, let's start with his nose. So I'm going to stick down this cream colour. I think it's cream I'm using, yep. And I'm just going to pop this down, and I'm going to take it up to the edge of where the fur round is kind of nose area is. And again, that's a perfect guideline for us. So we've got that, and then I'm going to take a slightly darker shade, which in this case is going to be Dark Naples Ochre, and I'm just going to tickle a tiny little bit of that in. This is really light-handed, round there and down under his nose, and all I have done is follow the hatching that is part of the image. I haven't done anything different. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to blend that out with my cream pencil again, just to make it nice and smooth. And then under his nose here, it's darker again than it is round the edge, so we want to make that darker, and it's really that simple. So I've picked a slightly darker hue, and all I'm doing is running a tiny little bit down there. So all I'm doing is using the intensity of the Greyscale to help me pick out colours, and the blacker that the Greyscale art is, the darker the colour pencil I will use. Now, it doesn't matter whether you only use 2 pencils, so you just have like in a dark colour, or whether you want to use 3 or 4. It's just going to enhance what it is you're doing. So let's carry on and do round his face here. So this is, again, this is just the base colour that we've used on this side. I'm just meandering over to the other side of his face, his little cute furry face. Just get that in there. So I'm just going to put a light layer of that down, because I'm going to be adding more pencil over the top in different shades. I'll just keep that nice and light under there, because there's a lot of grey there, therefore we're going to be going darker under there. Okay, there we go. So we're going to go back to what I used as the middle shade, and looking for the lighter grey areas, so round here, just little cheek, and starting to go up into that, into his hairline, where we're going to go ginger. I'm going to make him a redhead on this side too. And then we can start to come down here into this grey area as well. There we go. That's nice. And we'll just blend this out a little bit with our pencil again, with our cream pencil. Want to make it nice and smooth around those transition areas. And now I'm taking my darker pencil again, which is the one we used under the nose here, and just into the really dark Greyscale areas now, so where it's getting quite black. There's some at the edges here. And it's nice as well because you can use your pencil and you can actually follow the lines of the artist. So Bennett has drawn curving lines in the way here, so that's the way I'm going to colour. I'm just following those lines. Do you see what I mean? Greyscale is so easy. It's so easy, especially when you have pictures like this that are that's more sort of hybrid, because you can see the pencil lines and you just follow them, and that's all you need to do. Just blending that out now with my mid colour. There we go. So that first section that we've coloured now, you can see the difference. This looks good. This looks better. That is the only difference, and again, it's not taken us that long. So let's do his fur now and see what we can do there. Make him just that handsome little man. So just as we did on the other side, I'm going to put a light layer of this first colour down. The other nice thing about Greyscale as well is you don't actually have to take that much care when you're colouring, and it's just because you have this luxury of there being the texture of the shading, you know, of the lines. So it's really, really handy. Right, I've got a sort of mid-brown now. This is raw umber, and exactly the same as I did up here. I'm going to try and go for the kind of lighter hatched areas first. There's not very many here, but for example here, give him a bit of chocolate brown around his eyes, and coming down into this fur here. So not the areas where it's black, but where we can see there's been lines put down around here too. And again, I'm just following those hatching lines. I'm not doing anything spectacular, not doing anything fancy. There's another bit here. His elbow. Do guinea pigs have elbows? I'm assuming he's a guinea pig. Is he, yeah, he's a guinea pig. There we go, and back over with another layer of my ginger. Oh, he's so adorable. Okay, so I'm going to take this darker colour now, and this is what really makes it pop. So under here, there he's hiding, bit there. And I'm just going to blend this out with, again, with my lightest colour. I'm going to put him a bit more under here. So all the way down here where there's a nice shadow as well, I'm going to pop in some more there, and I'm going to pull it out a little bit, just very lightly though. So really light hand when you come out towards the edge of the hatching, where this area is here, where it's just pencil and no grayscale. And then over the top of that, little circular motions to pull that all out again. So we're blending the darkest colour in, and that's really what gives it depth. And the same this ridge here as well, so using my mid pencil, just going to go along there following the lines, maybe tucking a bit down and under there, and then blending that out. Now this is all tucked in behind here, so I'm just going to put down some of this darker colour round about here. And the same in under his kind of whiskery bits here. Right, moving up to his ear. We want it lightest at the edge and darkest in here. So I'm going to start in here and use that darkest pencil on the place where there is the most ink, and then I'm going to come up with this mid-tone over the grey areas, and then here where there's hardly anything, it's mostly the white of the paper that we can see, using my, I keep calling this my ginger pencil. His ginger. I've got a name for him. For those of you that are relatively new to my channel, I have a habit of naming the things that I colour, and this little guy looks like a Humphrey. I think I'm going to call him Humphrey. Oh wow, right, so in here there's no shading, so I'm using my lightest colour, which is my ginger pencil, as discussed. And this little bit at the side there looks more grey, so pop in a bit of that mid-tone and then go over it with my ginger pencil. What is this actually called? Burnt ochre. Not ginger, burnt ochre. Okay, now I've already put down quite a bit of the mid-tone on here. I'm just going to build that up a little bit more because I want it to be quite nice and rich. And then get in there with that ginger pencil, blend it out and just build up the colour in this top section here. And lastly, we've just got this bit here. Now you need to be careful not to take your ochre too far down into the pale colour, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. There we are. So now down on his little claw here, all I did earlier was, on this side, was used that mid-brown pencil. So I'm just going to do the same thing again. Just put a light layer of that down. And then I'm going to take my darker colour, which is a walnut brown, and do exactly the same thing. So where the darker ink, where the more of the ink is, I'm going to slip in a little bit of that pencil, just very lightly. And all I'm doing is really accentuating those shadows. That's really what I'm going for there. All it does is just give it a little bit more depth. And then I gave them little dark tips like this. Just trying to match what's over on the other side now. There we go. That's pretty good. I just realised I missed a bit there. Dear, dear. It's not much use, is it? There we are. So deepening the shadows. So having a look at Humphrey, there you can see that there really isn't that much of a difference. There is, but the difference is very, very subtle, and you will only see it in certain lights or if you're really looking for it. So once again, flat colouring with one coloured pencil per section will give you a perfectly good result. I would blend this out a little bit. In fact, I'll just show you that just now. Depending on the paper and the pencils that you use, all pencils will behave differently on different paper. But if I just smooth this out a bit for you. The paper that I normally colour on, I had run out of it and I have been unable because of the weather to get any more. So I had to make do with what was there. Anyway, so yours will perhaps look a little bit more like that, a little bit smoother. Smooth this out. This is just Pencil Blender that I'm using, which I will be discussing in a not too distant video. So if it's something that you'd like to find out about, you can check out my next Colouring for Beginners video, and I'll talk a little bit about pencil blending. Okay, so now I'm going to do exactly the same with the flower, and I have two other shades including my light magenta, which is this one. So I have like a mid-tone and a darker colour as well, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. In the lighter grey areas, like here and here, I'm going to use my mid-tone, and then when we get into darker areas where it's more black than grey, I'll use the darkest colour. And I'm going to do that for the whole side of this flower. First of all, starting off with a light layer of my light magenta. Clearly I got carried away with myself here and went into the side that I wasn't supposed to. I was just finishing off the petal, that was all. Please forgive me. Now I'm going to go back over and I'm going to blend out the petals with my light magenta. So there you have it, everyone. There is 2 ways to colour a grayscale or a hybrid grayscale image, and from a distance, as you can see, the side with the flat colour there's absolutely nothing wrong with it whatsoever. It's still very, very beautiful and it's nice and rich. The only difference going over to the other side is there's just a little bit more variation in the tone there, which we've put in with our slightly darker pencils, and you can see the same on the petals as well, and it just gives it a little bit more depth, a bit more of a 3D feel to it, and it just helps sort of enhance that aspect of the picture. So that is you. There is now no reason for you not to colour in something in a grayscale. I hope that you have all learned something from this and that it has made you realise that grayscale doesn't need to be scary. I will leave a link in the description if you fancy getting a hold of Bennett Klein's book with this picture in. And there are other similar images in the book as well. It's not completely full, but ones like this as well, where you've got that little bit of grayscale and something a bit more traditional in the background. And thanks so much for joining me, and if you've enjoyed this video you can give it a thumbs up, that would be fabulous. Bye for now, guys. If you fancy a bit more action from the cave, you can check out some other videos here and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. As always, I look forward to reading your comments and what you thought of the video, and we shall see you soon in the cave for some more fun with art stuff. Bye for now, guys.